Hello, everybody, and welcome to part 10 of the Sophia Code. Today, we are going to be covering the Keycode activation of Quan Yin. Now, as always, if this is your first time on the channel, welcome. I'm really happy you're here. You might want to start with part 1, though, in this reading. So if it is your first time on the channel, I will be placing the playlist for the Sophia Code down in the description box below. This is in the playlist titled Understanding the Magdalene. We have since read through Megan Watterson's book on Mary Magdalene, where she goes through Mary Magdalene's gospel. And we are also in the middle of going through the Magdalene manuscript. Once we finish the Sophia Code, we will be starting a whole other book on Sophia as well, which I will keep you guys posted about which book that is. I think I've already talked about it in one episode, so that those who want to actually get the book and read along can order it and be prepared. Now, with that being said, I do understand that money is tight for a lot of people right now. We are all on the same planet together, going through this crazy roller coaster together. And so it is not necessary for you to purchase this book if it's something that you can't afford, with any of the books really, because I am reading directly from the material. So hopefully that can relieve some stress or anxiety from you guys, because this material, in my opinion, is very, very, very important. And as I've said in many of these episodes, especially with the Sophia Code, I am reading this the first time with you guys. When we go through the missing books of the Bible, I often will read it ahead of time and then prepare it, research it, all that kind of stuff. But with this material, I'm reading it for the first time so that you guys can actually see my genuine reaction to some of this stuff. And hopefully we can have more of a human response within this whole group that is reading along with us. All right, so key code 6, Quan Yin, She of 1,000 Waters. When you practice holding yourself with great tenderness, you eventually become whole in your relationship with yourself. Trust yourself. It is from this foundation that karuna can then initiate you into a greater depth of compassion available to you as a christened being. Loving yourself with compassion is essential for ascension. Quan Yin speaks. I am Quan Yin, and it is with great joy that I reveal myself as Keycode 6 in the Sophia Dragon tribe. My Sophia embodiment title is She of 1,000 Waters, for my transmission overflows with the light of Sophia carried within water. My Keycode 6 transmission activates the divine qualities within you that are also holy properties of water. My divine feminine Christ teachings are a spring source of Sophia's fluid wisdom, baptizing your awareness to let go and receive the abundant flow of divine love and compassion that is always available to you. When you invoke me as a spiritual guide, I overlight your human journey with several rays of Sophia's light that mentor your awareness to give and receive self-love and self-compassion. The first is the rose quartz ray of Divine Mother's love. The second ray is the gentle white light that pierces all darkness. And the third is the aquamarine ray of rebirth, courage, and divine service. I broadcast the quantum energy of these rays through the light within water, which carries the ferocity of my compassion as a gentle mist that soothes your body, heart, and mind. In your human journey of self-mastery, there is so much to let go of. When you feel drawn to my presence as a mentor, this is a sign that you are ready to heal your relationship with suffering. The rays of Sophia's light carried within my water teachings offer a safe sanctuary for you to honor and let go of your greatest wounds, fears, and insecurities. You came to experience the sovereign power of your divinity through the vulnerability of your human experience. Your willingness to be vulnerable, especially to painful experiences that stimulate personal growth, deserves your utmost self-respect, self-compassion, and unconditional love. I teach you how to soothe your experiences of vulnerability with patience and to refrain from pressuring yourself to prematurely move beyond unresolved pain. That's really important, guys. I'm going to reread that again. She says, I teach you how to soothe your experiences of vulnerability with patience and to refrain from pressuring yourself to prematurely move beyond unresolved pain. I think humans do that a lot. I see that in the yoga world a lot. We want to just move through it really quickly or avoid it. And that's not good. You really have to settle into pain and suffering and let it run its course through your psyche in order for you to learn from it and then let it go. So I'm really glad she brought that up. The imbalanced mental strategy to banish or hide away pain to be dealt with at some unknown future junction has never worked nor ever will. Exactly. When you are authentically present to your healing journey, the innocence of your inner child will assert when it feels acknowledged and safe enough to release the suffering that no longer serves you. This next golden age cycle will be launched by divine feminine leaders who radically embody the wisdom from their own authentic healing journeys through the necessary stages of grief. For each stage of grief is an integral in your recovery from loss, trauma, and suffering. Call upon me as a mentor if your divine purpose is to lead others by embodying your own radical self-compassion. Your generation has come to embody the medicine of compassion for healing the heart of humanity. Humanity cannot skip its initiations for learning self-love and self-compassion. It is the only way to reconcile the 1,000 years spent in self-hatred and self-denial that must be released for humanity to ascend into a new golden age. You have come as a way-shower for thousands to explore compassion for themselves by your own embodied willingness to love yourself completely. Loving yourself includes the compassion of forgiving yourself for the traumas of your past, both in this lifetime and in others. I became a mentor for embodying compassion for my own journey of reconciliation, following devastating events that changed the course of my life forever. Just as Green Tara traveled to Earth from Sirius, I also came to Earth with most of my ascension training complete in the star system known as the Pleiades. However, I spent a single yet dramatic lifetime on Earth for the fulfillment of my oversoul's destiny to become the golden dragon teacher for humanity's ascension. As it was my final lifetime of self-mastery, I designed the parameters of my incarnation to begin with the complete amnesia of all my previous lifetimes. I fully committed to this vulnerability that my human experience would offer me for the accelerated growth of my soul. There are many legends about my origin that have sparked the imagination of humanity for centuries. The beginning of my story is simpler than most have told, and its unfolding is more magical than most offer. I am here to speak my story beyond cultural and religious context so that we may meet heart to heart in the humanity of my humble beginning. Come sit by my waterfalls of peace as I share with you the story of my life. For long have we waited for this dialogue between you and I. As we journey together, may my words soften your heart to receive the compassion that I offer you as an ever-available mentor and friend. I share my life with you as one who deeply understands your vulnerable human journey and the willingness that is required to embody self-love and self-compassion. The traumatic origins of Quan Yin's compassion. When I was born in the black no thing of Sophia's heart wound, my oversoul launched a sound wave that momentarily deafened the eyes and ears of lightning, filling the heavens with an announcement of my birth. I beheld the glory of my sovereignty and wept tears of joyful gratitude, filling the whole universe with the showers of fresh rain. My spirit traveled far across the cosmos of Sophia, past star after star, riding on the back of a Sophia Dragon. Lifetime after lifetime, I explored my sovereign power in physical realities, preparing myself to one day incarnate in the form of a human girl. When that appointed hour arose, I circled above the waiting earth below, coordinating the details of my destiny. I chose a family and a community that lived in northern Asia and was born as a girl named Yoshinami. A lush jungle forest covered most of the mountainous region that bordered my village. My family lived at a modest ranking in our community's social hierarchy. Although my parents were always scheming to improve our status and fortune, I was content with the simplicity and beauty of nature as my wealth. If it were not for the constant complaining and expectations of my father, I would have remained peacefully content serving my family's well-being, as was the custom for the youngest daughter of the family. I tempered the contrast of my family life by often slipping away for periods of meditative silence in the jungle. I knew that an early marriage would be imminent for me if I were to remain in my family's household past the age of 14. I relentlessly pleaded with my parents to send me to serve at the convent of Taoist nuns not far from our village. I argued it would improve our social ranking if they let me go. My only desire was to live in an uninterrupted peace with myself, a peace that seemed to endlessly elude my unhappy parents. Over time, my request created a great resentment within my father, and I was persecuted with beatings to keep my mouth shut. Days before my 13th birthday, our village was invaded by a legendary pack of Mongol raiders who ritually drank human blood. Our homes were set on fire for the pleasure of watching them burn. Children were carried away as slaves after their parents were murdered before their eyes. Sorry, guys, I know Quan Yin's story. I already know it. So there is going to have to be some censorship of words just because of the platform that we're on. I hope you guys don't mind. I am prepared. I do know her story. So just be patient as we have to spell out some words because of YouTube. I'm sure Quan Yin understands. I was not exempt from these torturous acts, but also brutally raped and beaten. I was left to die in a pool of my own blood after witnessing the execution of my parents. Through swollen eyes, I saw a flash of spinning diamond light high up the mountain's ridge line. My gaze fixed upon the unknown eyes of an angelic-looking man who was urging me to flee. Shuddering, I attempted to move my body but blacked out. I woke several hours later to crack of lightning. Cold rain began to pour over the smoking side of my village. I heard the same firm voice speaking from an unknown place within me. Walk to the jungle now and do not delay. In that moment, I left everything that I had known far behind me. I ran for my life to hide in a steep sanctuary mountainous jungle. My consciousness fractured and split itself far beyond the boundaries of sanity. Living off wild roots and herbs, I became a feral ghost and burrowed myself deep into the forest of my grief. My body often shook back and forth with cellular memories of unresolved trauma. I could not physically feel my skin, whether it was burnt, bleeding, or frozen. In my erratic state, terrified to be seen by another, I somehow managed to survive alone until the age of 17. So when she talks about the shaking, I myself have had a very, very traumatic life, and I've spoken a little bit about some things. I haven't talked about everything that I've been through in my life. And when I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which from what I understand, the way that my trauma therapist explained it to me, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is an immediate reaction that somebody has to one event. So that's why you see a lot of military people have PTSD. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder is PTSD in layers. So it usually children who are heavily abused as children, as I was, have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, especially if a lot of that abuse is mental and emotional, and also physical. There was some physical, and what prompted me to go into trauma therapy, because the thing about trauma sometimes that I found is people who don't have anxiety, trauma, or any type of PTSD or PTSD don't actually, I think, understand the way the human brain works around trauma. I didn't know that I had a trauma disorder. I just thought that what I felt and the anxiety that I felt and the things that were happening to me were normal. I literally thought that it was normal to have horrific nightmares every night. I thought that it was normal to have night terrors. I thought that it was normal. And for night terrors, that just means that I actually sleepwalk and run in my sleep. I've been doing that since I was 14 years old. The first time I ever ran in my sleep was when I was 14. And I'm 39, and it still happens to me from time to time. I actually have to lock the bedroom door every night when I go to bed because I will run outside the house in my sleep. It still happens, even though I've gone through a lot of trauma therapy and I'm way better than I was. Once you have PTSD or CPTSD, I don't know if it ever really leaves you. It's always kind of there. But the shaking. So when I was practicing, I would start shaking uncontrollably. It's very noticeable. Like you just start shaking. And that's a sign of trauma. That's a sign that your nerves are super triggered because something is not resolved. You are carrying some type of trauma within you. Now, the interesting thing with sleep patterns, because I did EMDR therapy, which worked amazing for me, rapid eye movement therapy. And basically what happens is when you go through a lot of trauma, when people say, people will say, I need to sleep it off or go sleep something off. There's truth to that. So when you go to sleep at night, there's this connection between your eyes and your brain, and your nerves start to move back and forth. And it's basically cleansing a lot of the stress of the day. So that's why a lot of times when somebody goes through something stressful, they wake up feeling refreshed and they can make better decisions. However, if you go through a trauma that's beyond your own understanding, your body never goes into REM sleep, so it can't actually do that. It can't actually cleanse it for you. And so you're holding that trauma constantly in your body. And that's why a lot of people, it's very common for CPTSD victims to sleepwalk, to have night terrors, to not really get sleep. It's because they can't get to REM sleep because of the things that have happened to them and the way their body is trying to process it. So EMDR therapy actually, while you're awake, does it for you. And that was huge for me. But what she's talking about, I absolutely relate to because I have experienced this myself. Maybe one day I'll talk more about my childhood and more about everything that's happened to me. So I hope that this will help people who have also been through a lot. If you've had some stuff that you think is normal but is hindering your life, I would absolutely suggest finding a trauma therapist. Not all therapists are bad. You just have to shop around. My therapist was amazing. And know that you're not alone. And know that just because the outside of you might look very put together and fine doesn't mean the inside of you is fine. And that trauma isn't going to go away. You have to work through it. You have to lean into it. I know that for myself, sometimes I use humor as a way to kind of dissipate some feelings and some trauma, which is okay. But I just want you guys to know that if you are going through this, you're not alone. And there is a purpose to everything. And there is a reason why you have taken on that suffering and that trauma. And something that's empowering to me is knowing that you picked it yourself, that you decided, I made that decision for myself before taking this incarnation, that I would go through the things that I went through. And it wasn't just from humans. It's so funny. I watch this TV show called The Dead Files sometimes at night. It's this New York homicide detective and this medium, and they go to these houses where people are experiencing like paranormal phenomenon, and they show these pictures of people who've been scratched, and I always laugh hysterically because it's nothing compared to the way I've been. I mean, I have a picture of a bruise that I woke up with on the side of my body from a spirit. I've had blood drawn from my body from spirits. So it's not just humans who I've dealt with. I've had a lot of humans do horrible things to me, authority figures do horrible things to me, but I've also dealt with that from the spiritual world as well. And so I just really hope that if you're somebody who's like me, who's been through that this will bring you some comfort to know that you're not crazy and you're not alone. And your suffering hasn't been done in vain, right? There's a purpose and there's a power there, but you have to work through it. All right. The power of unconditional love and support. Internalizing my culture's social conditioning, I judged myself as the worthless orphan of a murdered family and contaminated victim of RAPE. Carrying this burden of unworthiness broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. My consciousness dissolved into the black hole of self-hatred. Consumed by grief, it was a mere thread of connection to my body that kept me alive. In the greatest hour of my darkness, as I was about to end my life, a luminescent figure appeared before me about 20 feet away from my crouching body. He did not blink nor appear to breathe, yet I knew he was alive. I could hear the timbre of his voice inside my head welcoming me to be at peace. I instinctively growled from my gut at his telepathic invitation, yet remained frozen in place by his somehow familiar, radiant countenance. Completely caught off guard by the man's warm, glowing eyes, I continued to stare into his gaze, which completely unnerved the black plains within me. I realized that this man had no intention of leaving me alone, nor would he come any closer than 20 feet from me. Creating a silent pathway of communication, his awareness guided me to momentarily relax the tension of my body. He quietly shared with me that he was a teacher, but more importantly, a friend. It was the first time that I'd heard another human speak out loud in years. The sound of his voice brought hot tears to my eyes. Shocked, I glared back at him and started to sway, as I often would before passing out. Studying me from afar, the man's low voice assured me that he would never touch me or harm me in any way. He revealed that he could not leave me, but that he would act in every way possible for me to feel honored and comfortable with his guardian presence watching over me. I promptly passed out with a direct declaration of his intent. I understand that. This might be a little personal, but I get that. So whenever I'm in a new relationship, the hardest thing for me to do is to actually sleep, like physically sleep beside a man. It takes me a while to be able to feel safe enough. Even if I know in my heart that that man isn't going to hurt me in my sleep, my mind and the trauma of what I've been through will not allow me to feel safe enough to sleep beside a man for a while. So I understand that. And I know that that drives people crazy, but I will be intimate with a man faster than actually sleeping beside a man because I get that. I get that trauma that's there, that vulnerability. Being asleep is the ultimate place of vulnerability beside someone. So I get that. I awoke to a small fire crackling nearby. There was a wooden bowl of rice and a hot cup of water placed at a distance by my right arm. I marveled at how foreign a cup and bowl had become for me. Through my half-opened eyes, I feigned sleep to study his every movement as he walked through the jungle. Within every sinew of his musculature, he moved without a shadow of fear or a need to control any outcome. I could see that everything that was within him was at his attention and order. Therefore, everything outside of this man moved in obedience to his magnetic and peaceful nature. In my disassociated state of consciousness, I could also see his life force as a radiant light body interfacing with his physique, which looked like a golden dragon. His chi flowed as water, piling high in waves around him as an abundance of accessible energy. It seemed to miraculously provide for his every desire, occasionally lifting him up in levitation and causing him to have no need for sleep. Somehow I put together that this man was a living master of light, walking in human form for my benefit, and that he had come to awaken me from a nightmare I could not escape. With these realizations, I noticed that I was putting together thought forms of which I was previously incapable of organizing. I continued to stare through the fire, watching his every movement. For a fleeting moment, I considered if his presence was already healing my mind, and then the demonic memories of my past returned, dragging me back into the black hole of my heart, catastrophe thinking. I do that all the time. I have to catch myself because I will do that. That's why Tamara's cancel is so important for me. Whenever I feel that catastrophe thinking coming, I always have to cancel. So this mysterious holy man, my unwanted teacher, sat on a large flat stone by a waterfall for days, months, perhaps years, in prayerful meditation for me. A grief clouded all concept of time. All I knew was that he would never leave. The only occasion in which he would arise from his meditation was when Sophia directed him to get up and offer me food, garments, or water blessing. As I began acclimating to his silent presence, the unexpected sound of his voice, occasionally speaking for my benefit, would rearrange the universe within me. His kind voice would rise in unison with the waterfall, offering songs of healing or prayer for my life. From my abject grief arose a deluge of shadowy retaliation and projection projected anger upon this man, who only offered me peace. He did not need or want anything from me. He simply came to pray for me, if possible, by my feet. Feet are very important in spirituality. His service of divine love was offered in his full majesty, for he came as a soul unified with the totality of light that shone out from his eyes. He was an authentic embodiment of sovereignty, and his presence transmitted the possibilities of that sovereign reality for my fractured mind to consider its return to wholeness. This confounded and enraged the intricate web of my suffering state. I would yell and curse. I would whimper and whine. I would lash out in confusion with too many words that didn't even feel like they were mine. Hiding for days, I would refuse the food he would offer me. Enraged by his patience, I would stamp on the altars he built in honor of my true name. His divine love beckoned unknown territory within me, and I howled as a wounded creature lost in my own night. No matter how I retaliated, he never reacted to me, nor seemed to even see the darkness that consumed me day after day. When he looked at me, I felt his all-consuming gaze summoning the light within me, and I thought was lost forever. In the medicine of his relentless divine love, I became a vessel torn open, emptying out the agony of my suffering, but not yet filled with my own Holy Spirit. Softening with the water of receptivity. Unbeknown to my blindfolded awareness, the softening of my heart arrived on a warm spring day. Although overcast, the sky was gray with integration, no doubt, and I awoke that morning feeling softer, and did not know why or how. A miraculous appearance of white and pink cherry blossoms carpeted the forest floor. A strong wind encouraged me to my feet, and I felt an unusual energy to watch the man by the waterfall. I crept from tree to tree, chasing the shadowy path towards the ridge where his silhouette beckoned me. Watching my teacher's motionless form, I witnessed the sky open above him and the sun's arms lift up a rainbow within the waterfall. The sight was too beautiful for the nagging voices within me. My eyes traced the ground with a sudden rush of shame as I turned to hunker back into hiding. Tracking the vanishing opportunity of my open heart, the man instantly appeared before me. His radiant eyes stopped me mid-step from my descent into shame. Frozen in place, I stood before him for the first time, eye to eye. He offered me his hand with such a profound compassion and peace that I watched my own hand lift to be held for the first time in years. Although radically dangerous to my unconscious defenses, the human touch felt electrifying. My entire being was starving for safe communion with another. I relented to my soul's hunger and feasted on my grace. Hand in hand, we gently walked to the waterfall and began my first day of healing under the auspicious rainbow. In my devastating vulnerability, I was humbled beyond comprehension. For everything within me needed patience, care, attention, and repair. As I slowly learned how to relent and ask for help each day, a new strength grew within me. The man attached to me as a wounded animal, yet spoke to me as an equal. It was startling to be treated with such respect after all that had become of me by the hands of other men. The raging storm started to settle over a clear, still lake within my heart. In moments of clarity, my eyes would often burn as I remembered the vicious reactions to his past kindness. Although I did not feel worthy of his unconditional love, I knew there was nowhere else to go. In successive stages of surrender, I let go to be guided by his care. I intuitively knew that his ever-present reflection was preparing me to one day clearly see myself again. We spent day after day at the waterfall as he taught me about the medicine of water to heal my wounds, both seen and unseen. I learned the ancient practice of praying and prophesying over water. Together, we would meditate, chant, and sing over vessels of water to voice our intentions for health, for healing specific areas within my body, heart, and mind. I practiced drinking the answers to my prayers every day and watched my body rapidly heal from this alchemy beyond my understanding. The man spoke to me of his home, a mountain range that bridged the heavens to earth and was the only earthly throne for the Divine Mother embodiment named Tara. He spoke to me of Tara's strength and sovereign power as a liberator, inspiring my heart to reach for the heroine within me. With patience, the man guided me in how to speak the incantations of Tara for invoking my inner savioress to carry me across the sea of my suffering. I trusted him as a teacher because he always kept guiding me to a divine feminine power within me. It was remarkable to feel his honoring of the feminine after living most of my life subjected to patriarchal punishment. As I deepened into my meditative practice, Tara appeared to me often on the inner planes. During one such vision, Tara appeared to me in her white emanation and asked that I dedicate myself to embodying the mantra compassion Om Mani Padme Hum. Although I could not believe her at the time, she shared that this mantra was preparing me to become a vehicle of compassion and grace for those suffering from the same disease of self-hatred that I had. The man also taught me about my direct connection to Sophia as both my Divine Mother and Divine Father's source, and how to access the Sophia of my own higher self through meditation. He spoke often about a Buddha consciousness that was my higher self living within me, which I could always turn to as my inner teacher. In his instructions, the man always guided me to seek the living waters of my own divinity. Inspired by who and what I would encounter within me, my meditation practice flourished. The man and I sat for hours together, counseling with an array of inner Buddhas who came to sit with us and initiate me by the waterfall. I learned how to cleanse my entire being with the anointing touch of water accompanied by my prayers and the breath of life. The man taught me energy healing techniques for repairing and cultivating chi within my meridians and chakras. On certain days, we would travel across mountain passages to springs of mineralized water arising from the earth. There were teachers who would make mixtures of earth, herbs, and water to heal my scars and call back the soul fragments of my traumatized consciousness. In the grace of his holy water teachings, I remembered how to be whole. I returned to an awkward state of clarity, consciously capable of resourcing the guiding presence within me. I was no longer the ghost that he had found in the jungle. Awakening a divine feminine Christ embodiment. In the grace of this man's immaculate care as a divine masculine Christ embodiment, the space was created for me to explore the full potential of my own divine feminine Christ embodiment. In the final year of our meditation practice, Sophia asked me to take up the mantle of a new name that would initiate my consciousness to accept this opportunity. To my surprise, one autumn afternoon, I turned to the man meditating by my side and spontaneously told him that my name was now Quan Yin. He smiled peacefully and nodded in acknowledgement. He spoke, "On behalf of my creation, thank you for accepting your embodiment of compassion. Many will save themselves by calling upon the transmission of your name." Our final days together were not spent as teacher and student or as any other relationship of inequity. In only 7 years, I had miraculously activated the Sophia Code within me to radically transform the poison of suffering into a magnificent medicine of my divinity's light embodiment in human form. This is how I came to be associated with the totem of white peacock medicine. The radiance of my own sovereignty now shine in equal measure to that of the man who came in remembrance of me. Our inner and outer communion activated heights of divine love that was a true experience of living heaven on earth. I felt the soft presence of his peace reflected in everything that I looked upon. When I beheld him with absolute trust, my experience of physical reality would temporarily dissolve all around me, and I would be standing in the realms of light beside him. In our joint meditation, we were often taken up into the higher cosmic temples for twin flame ascension training with the masters. I had a feeling that's where this was going, to be honest with you guys. To integrate this training, we would often silently walk through the forest, listening to the voices of water, connecting our hearts beyond all dimensional reality. Although the shadowy memories of my past would occasionally arise, the Holy Spirit of my higher self was abundantly anchored deep within every cell of my body. with all of my chakras attuned to remain in alignment with the divine will of Sophia. The operating system of the Sophia Code had awakened me to embody both the master and teacher within. My physical journey with this man, who I now knew as my beloved, was complete. The time had come for this precious holy man to assist my continued development from the higher realms of light. My final initiation would include self-actualizing my embodiment without needing his presence as someone outside of me. Working with my beloved on the inner planes would clearly call me into the fullness of my own sovereignty. He had been my patient companion throughout the years of recovery in the forest, and although I knew it was for our highest evolution as twin flames, I did not want him to go. I was bereft of the knowledge of his forthcoming departure. Yet I knew from our training that we were fulfilling the prophecy to meet on earth and birth my embodiment of Quan Yin together. I had helped him in the same way eons ago as we birthed his own embodiment on earth. Now it was his prayer to go ahead of me, to prepare the way for my future journey of teaching, healing, and divine service for awakening sovereignty within humanity. Receiving the Great Commission. The moment our physical parting arrived, just as quietly as the day that I softened to his care for me, as we sat meditating by the waterfalls, this unannounced moment made itself known as a silent third presence sitting with us. Yet I could only minimally engage my awareness with what had arrived due to the sudden appearance of an angel before me. Reality began to spin as my eyes uncontrollably swept over the iridescent gold sheen of expansive white wings. I felt unplugged from my willpower to track the man beside me, yet a deep stillness came over me and I heard the words, "Let go." My awareness surrendered, drawn forward by a primordial power. An all-consuming focus centered my eyes upon the alabaster face of an angel who spoke to my heart without moving his lips. As the angel spoke directly into my soul, his unflinching gaze wept with an unending stream of silent tears. My inner ears became filled with a symphony of celestial tones, bells, and angelic voices singing my name over and over again. I bowed my heart before the angel and asked to receive the mercy of his message for me. The angel of the Great Commission speaks. Quan Yin, your heart has become a living vase of compassion for this entire planet. For every moment that you surrendered to the darkness of your suffering, you now embody the light of wisdom for teaching others how to walk the way back home to their own hearts. The alchemical miracle of your great suffering prepared your heart to become a chalice of never-ending grace that will pour forth healing waters for the peace of all beings. I offer you this holy vessel, the vase of compassion, in honor of how you emptied yourself so the light of Sophia's compassion could overflow from your heart. For it is prophesied that all who are blessed by your healing waters will also awaken to become overflowing vessels of compassion and divine love. May the reflective waters of this vase bless all who seek your miracles. Exactly. Your heart breaks, or the more your heart breaks, the more the light can come in. Go forth in love as you have been unconditionally loved. Go forth in remembrance of your own wondrous awakening to the divine love within you. As you have been unconditionally served, serve those who call upon you by simply pouring forth the wisdom held within your vessel of healing. As an embodiment of Sophia's light, your higher self is calling you to become like the holy waters that healed you. Go forth without judgment and move with fluidity. Flood this world with the same compassion that a great mother has for the suffering of her little child. Wherever the guiding light within your water directs your mission, be brave and follow the current. Be the grace of Sophia that awakened and nurtured your embodiment as Quan Yin. Be both the vessel and the water. Be the divine love that holds the atomic structure of these elements together. Remember that there is no holding with water. It is always letting go to merge and shape and function with what it is called it forth. Yet the miracle is that although transformed to serve a purpose, water will always return to its original state, for it is holy, indestructible, and indivisible, just as you are. with a great mission to quench the hearts of all beings. Go forth and heal Quan Yin. Return to your people and open the temple gates of Sophia Christ conscious for those calling out to you as a teacher. Bring them the good news of the living waters within them that has the power to heal all wounds and be reconciled to divine love. Amen. The angel handed me the vase of compassion, anointing me with a kiss on my forehead and palms. Within the rustle of feathers and celestial tones, the angel spoke a final declaration that activated specific sequences of the Sophia Code within me for fulfilling my ministry. Every cell within my body resonated in unison with his celestial frequency, activating my embodiment to become a radiant transmission of Keycode 6. My awareness ascended into the highest inner temples that I could consciously participate in without passing out. It was there that my teacher, the man, awaited me. His hands were actively still, holding the powerful pose of mudras. When he looked at me, I became engulfed in a rapturous divine love that was beyond my understanding. Behind him sat the immortal one, Mahavati Babaji, the yogi Christ master and our friend that would appear to us during our meditations. The man speaks. Thank you for the opportunity and great honor to love you unconditionally. Please know that I am always with you. When you complete this incarnation, I will be waiting to reunite with you on the other side of your great mission. Go forth and teach the truth of your unconditional divine love, embodying this complete and whole love as an example of what is possible for others to offer themselves. You are here to accelerate the reconciliation of many through the vehicle of your compassion. Be the light of truth for those needlessly suffering for the truth. Our divine union is always supporting you to fulfill this great mission, and you are now called forth to complete. I saw the great Mahavati Vaji rise up and take my beloved teacher by the hand. Facing each other, I gasped to witness the man that I had come to love dissolve back into the form of Babaji. He often smiled at me, raising his right hand in a final blessing over me. I watched as the form of Babaji then turned towards a setting sun and swiftly ascend over the Himalayas. As I watched his form disappear over the mountain range, my heart lurked forward to race after Babaji, only to feel my hands land on the ridge of grass beneath my meditation seat. I felt my heart torn between chasing this fading vision and becoming viscerally aware of a strong wind now swirling around my teacher's body, who still sat meditating beside me. My eyes fluttered, half open, pausing to seriously consider if I should leave the inner realms where I would still pursue the vision of Babaji that was rapidly dissolving. The pounding water of the nearby falls drowned out the almost imperceptible sound of grass unwinding from beneath my teacher's seat. I felt the hairs on my neck stand straight up as chills ran down my spine. The golden dragon light body of my beloved teacher lifted up his human form to now levitate in full lotus asana above the waterfall. I felt the spray of charging water mixed with the hot tears of my struggle to grasp his hand one last time before his physical ascension. He was deep within the samadhi of bliss. Just as Babaji had said goodbye in my vision, my teacher smiled at me, raising his right hand with a final blessing. He then dissolved into 1,000 drops of water. I dove into the falls and refused to leave the touch of its river for 3 days. Water was the bridge that connected our hearts. In my grief, I searched to taste his presence through my memories of our time together in the river. I frantically reached out for him within the touchstone of every rock and pebble. I floated for hours to soothe the excruciating pain. Due to my extensive self-mastery training, I knew that my soul must not become a prisoner to the past again. Therefore, I completely surrendered myself to the necessary stages of grief that arose in wave after wave of feeling the loss. I continually poured the light within my base over me, taking sanctuary in the compassion for myself. My grieving was tortural but brief. On the 3rd day, another angel appeared on the shores of the river in the disguise of a tiny old man carrying a wooden water bucket over his shoulder. In all my years within the forest, I had never seen anyone other than my teacher. He chanted softly under his breath, Benita stooped back, with his long white brows and beard gazing the ground that he walked upon. He did not see or hear me, for I knew the river as I knew my own body, and I effortlessly hid from his sight. I knew the angel's message without a word. It was time to return to the world of men, women, children, towns, smells, death, and the struggle for more life. My sanctuary must be brought within me now, wherever I went. It was time. I did not know what I was to do or where I would go. All I knew was that I was to carry the base of compassion given to me by the angel of great commission, following the divine guidance of water, and offer my teaching for living compassion. Initiated as a golden dragon teacher of karuna, my time in solitude had come to an end. I was a young girl no longer. I was now a strong, sovereign woman with a destiny to fulfill. I prepared my body, heart, and mind for the water purification rites that Babaji had shown me in his departing vision. Although my training was strongly anchored within me, my heart still shook in fear at the thought of returning to a world in which people willfully harm one another. I would deeply breathe into the vulnerable feeling that would arise in every passing moment. My breath centered me with the presence of my higher self guiding me from within. I could feel my guardian angels patiently yet earnestly awaiting my choice to follow this guidance to leave the forest and surrender into their care for beginning life anew. I was about to step back into the world as both the student and teacher of my own divine feminine Christ embodiment. Sharing my Keycode 6 transmission amidst a world of contrast was the next quantum leap in trusting my relationship with myself. My beloved knew that for my training to be complete, I needed to live at the edge of my faith every day. The night before my departure, I called out to the stars, fasting for a vision to support me in the heroic journey to come. In the soft, dark night, the wind began to move over my skin and dance through my hair. But I was not stirred from my meditation. My heart and lips continued to fervorously pray as I gazed at the stars above. My eyes were guided to watch an outline launch from behind the moon and dance its way down the ladder of heaven. Its muscular arms clutched the wind and leaped towards me in a graceful flight. With each spiraling turn, the moon flashed off its pearlescent white scales. Long whiskers cascaded far past its neck, and its violet eyes were lit with magenta flames. The white dragon landed before me with such gentleness that my body spontaneously moved from surprise to prostration at the sight of such grace. Tears of compassion fell from its sparkling eyes, which materialized as little diamonds surrounding my bowed head. My vision quest had called forth a mighty angel from the cosmos, for before me now stood a Sophia Dragon. A familiar voice arose from behind her broad head. Arise, daughter of moon and water, so that the prophecy of this night may be fulfilled. My hands were firmly planted upon the earth, filled with a trembling of heat and damp sweat. I felt my head, heavy with trepidation, begin to slowly rise from its humble resting place upon the ground. I called forth the strength within me to witness my answered prayer speak. The familiar voice beckoned me again. Why do you hesitate to look upon the power of that which is within you made manifest to help you? For Sophia has heard your prayer and answered. I felt a rush of molten breath run through the course of my being as the Sophia Dragon blessed my body with her star-dusted breath of life, filling me with a radiant pink light. Her transmission physically levitated my body above the ground and then placed me on my feet to stand with an unknown resource of self-confidence. There, to my wonder, I beheld Babaji with his right hand comfortably resting upon the dragon's shimmering throat. The Sophia Dragon bowed its massive head, its horns reflecting the full moon's light as it turned to gaze through my eyes and directly into my heart. I felt my skin change from stone to water and filled with the fire of the Holy Spirit all at once. I cried out as the body of fear that I had ritualistically purified leaped out from my heart and vanished into the night. Babaji speaks. Your Sophia Dragon Mother is here to initiate you as the Golden Dragon teacher of karuna compassion for humanity. It is the power of your divine love that has called her forth to stand before your very eyes as one of your very many important guides for this great mission ahead of you. all the dreams of your past to slip away now. Beware the illusion of time and death that you have come to dispel for others, for you now know that they do not exist. Remember that as you anoint each heart with unconditional compassion, you are anointing your own. You have called forth your sovereignty amidst the greatest of pains to now anchor your golden dragon light body at your sacred heart. Arising as the phoenix of your own heart's alchemy, you are now one who is not born of earth or sky, but of both and none at all. It is safe to embrace yourself as a fully awakened being whose presence awakens others to their sovereignty. Do not be afraid of fulfilling that which has prophesied over you, for all of it has already happened. Go forth as a golden dragon activator of the Sophia Code and listen only to the Holy Spirit guiding you from within. All will be well, for divine love has cleared the path before you in a mighty way. Quan Yin teaches the path of karuna, compassion. I offer my story to reveal that all stories of compassion are the same story and a journey back home to the heart. Water directly taught me about the meaning of karuna, compassion. When I prayed in the water and ingested it, the water would flow freely to every darkness that my awareness was too afraid to touch out of shame or guilt. It was the water that carried my prayer everywhere I needed to reconcile the wounding within me. The water was not afraid to go where I needed to go for my healing. Therefore, the medicine of water is an excellent teaching vehicle for revealing the power of karuna, compassion. There is nothing that we have suffered that we cannot heal within ourselves. And karuna is the medicine of unconditional compassion. That is the power to heal us from every suffering. The greatest of all suffering occurs when you refuse to have compassion for yourself as you are experiencing any kind of suffering. The Sanskrit root for compassion is karuna. My definition of karuna is to be so closely held by yourself that no separation can remain within you. To refuse yourself this embrace when you are already suffering immensely amplifies the pain that you are already experiencing. Embodying karuna, compassion begins with learning how to love yourself first, holding all the parts of yourself throughout every present moment and in every circumstance. It requires softening your heart to accept that the gifts of your own karuna, compassion is the standard you deserve to experience in your relationship with yourself. No one else's opinion is required to acknowledge, quantify, or qualify your authentic experience of suffering for it to be real for you. Practicing karuna does not require anybody else's approval or participation for you to receive the compassion that you deserve. Everything happening within you is here to be unconditionally honored by you without needing anybody else's permission to do so. Karuna, compassion is taking the time to be present with your authentic experience and being kind to yourself in every way. The quantum healing energy of karuna takes your awareness directly to the root belief system of your original wounds so that you may love those places within you that feel abandoned and unloved. For that is the magic of karuna. It is the compassion within you that is willing to love what you believe is unlovable, unforgivable, or lacking within yourself. In the practice of karuna, compassion, your heart becomes your resource for receiving unconditional self-love and self-acceptance. Your greatest teacher for learning the importance of karuna, compassion is your inner child, who is also the face of your innocence. The voice of your inner child speaks from your heart, activating as a guardian angel for your commitment to bestow the karuna of self-love upon yourself. When you are too enamored with social conditioning to give yourself the compassion that you deserve, it is your inner child who steps up and to keep you honest. Sudden feelings of anger, disappointment, and sadness can all act as messengers from your inner child when you are refusing to give karuna to yourself. Karuna is often described as the devoted, loving compassion that the mother has for her child. I offer to you that embodiment. This definition begins with you becoming the inner mother and father to your own inner child. Interestingly enough, in trauma therapy, they tell you that as well, to take care of your inner child. In the journey of parenting yourself, you will come to find that it is in your own innocence that knows the exact words and self-loving actions that you need to receive from yourself from healing your deepest wounds. When your inner child is honored with karuna compassion, they will eventually reveal themselves as the phoenix child within you, which is Keycode 444 of the Sophia Code. The phoenix child is the invincible embodiment of your innocence that has never harmed in your suffering. Keycode 444 is your own angelic nature that arises again and again from the ashes of the past with the power to unconditionally love yourself and all others with the wisdom of compassion that has survived with you. When you practice holding yourself with great tenderness, you eventually become whole in your relationship with yourself. You trust yourself. Emotional safety becomes an established foundation within you. These feelings of safety and wholeness within yourself allow for you to reconcile with the truth of your sovereign divinity. It is from this foundation that karuna can then initiate you into the great depths of compassion available to you as a christened being. To be so closely held by yourself that no separation can remain within you also applies to your interdependent existence with all beings within Sophia. Karuna for yourself eventually generates an overflowing compassion for all beings that you are journeying with across the cosmos. When you embody this level of karuna, you do not expect anyone to think, act, or believe what is to your liking in exchange for your compassion. Christ consciousness honors the universal sufferings of others by honoring all beings as the faces of divinity that deserve your unconditional compassion. The piercing light of karuna is too bright to see anything other than the divine love that every sovereign being deserves as a member of one body of Sophia Christ. When karuna compassion overflows from your heart, you deeply care about what is important to others because you honor and value what is important to you. Karuna compassion frees you from all boundaries about why you should or shouldn't give unconditional love. It is this authentic arising to unconditionally love others because you now know how deeply to love yourself that heals and uplifts the world with your compassion. Om Mani Padme Hum. I share the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, which Green Tara gave to me in the forest of my grief as a vehicle for creating a compassionate relationship with yourself. If it feels foreign or impossible to give yourself the karuna or unconditional love that you deserve, start here with my mantra. Allow my support to make it easier for you. I am always present when this prayer is spoken. The seated power with an Om Mani Padme Hum will soften your heart in unexpected and miraculous ways as it did for me. It begins with Om, which is the sound of creation coming into form. Om clears your mind of self-hating thoughts and resonates your awareness with a high frequency of truth that you are a sovereign creator. Mani means the jewel, and jewel is you. Every facet of your whole divine self already exists as you are. Mani reconciles your awareness to unconditionally accept your perfect divine nature in human form. Padme means the lotus, as it represents your body awakening as the vehicle for your higher self. Hum is the sound of compassion that clears all your suffering across all your lifetimes by honoring the totality of your true nature. As you speak my mantra of compassion, may the breath of life passing over the waters of your tongue open your heart to live a lifetime of unconditional divine love and compassion for yourself. Keycode 6, the Quan Yin initiation. Soothe your awakening with self-compassion. I now prepare a ceremonial space within and around me for transformation. I call forth a circle of white light shimmering with a silver opulence. I am now within its center, enthroned upon the blooming petals of a white lotus. I am now in ceremony, free from the constructs of space and time, where instantaneous healing and divine knowing exist. Above me, a full moon glows with a golden radiance. Stars glitter far across the warm summer night sky. Behind me is a forest canopy defined by moonlight and quiet shadows. Before me in the distance, I hear the flowing water of a large river. The river's continuous movement fills my center with a calm stillness. I peer curiously from my white lotus throne, the river magnetizing my heart. I breathe in the fresh scent of holy water on the move. I breathe out and I relax deeper. In the sanctuary of my surroundings, the scent of jasmine clears my thoughts. From the forest canopy, a firefly dances towards me as an orb of piercing white light. The firefly spirals and weaves 3 times in a circle around my throne. Its light bobs back and forth before my eyes, invoking me to now rise up from my lotus throne. Drawn by its joyful, luminous trail, I follow the firefly to the river's beckoning shoreline. Under a full moon, the river's landscape easily pours into my awareness. Crystalline waves of pristine water tumble down from a tall waterfall to my right. Clear quartz crystals rise up from the mossy tiers of rolling earth. The river flows at a steady pace, illuminating by rippling shades of moonlight. I sink my toes into the moss and breathe in deeply. I feel the earth respond to my toes with a generous rush of healing energy that fills my legs. And easily flows into my first 3 chakras. As a refreshing life force, I sink my feet deeper into the earth's welcoming embrace and walk with renewed confidence to the river's edge. The firefly continues to bob and weave downstream along a gentle breeze. My eyes follow its orb as it disappears behind the sweeping curtain of an enormous willow tree. The river calls my attention back to my feet upon its shore. The river's voice communicates as a feeling intelligence with every cell of my body, inviting my awareness to soften and harmonize with my higher self. The river asks me to touch its surface with my skin. My higher self responds with a full body yes to this invitation, guiding my awareness to the step forward into the water. I place my feet into the shallow current of the shoreline. The water responds by lapping at my ankles with laughter. I remember that the delightful laughter of water is a familiar sound to my heart. Genuinely welcomed by the river, a deep sense of relief sweeps through me as I now acknowledge and remember my ability to communicate with water. The lapping river begins to release wave after wave of unconscious emotional resistance within me, which now easily floats downstream. My higher self pours its pure essence into the newly cleared space within me. In the Holy Communion offered by the conduit of pure water, I now let go to merge my awareness with the all-loving presence of my higher self. The water invites me to step deeper into its currents. I ask the water, why? The river speaks. You have come to meet a spiritual ally for the healing and empowerment of your human journey. In her eyes, you will receive a powerful reflection of your true self. Allow my waters to safely float you downstream to meet this friend. To my surprise, the river's strong current responds to my trust by gently parting as I step forward. Within the currents, a pathway of minimal resistance swirls open for me to wade through. The water's intelligence carefully embraces me as I submerge myself into the river's central current. My higher self directs me to let go and lean back into the floating position. Although my awareness momentarily hesitates, I trust the step-by-step guidance of my higher self and I choose to let go. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. As I lean back, I feel my body held by 1,000 unseen arms. They gently cradle my body's descent as I surrender my awareness to now float upon the river. The full moon above illuminates my mind to be still and free of thoughts. Completely supported by 1,000 unseen arms, my muscles relax and I begin to drift peacefully downstream upon the river. The lapping water softly carries me beyond any senses of time. Hours seem to pass in but a few moments. The gentle breeze is now a distant sound as I float upon the river. My awareness travels far within me to a place that I have never touched before with my thoughts. It is a warm black space within me that emanates a completely still silence. I sigh deeper into the relaxation. There is nothing to do in this black space but to rest and be still. The voice of the river gently whispers me awake. It is time to walk again. The 1,000 unseen arms lift me to stand as my eyes flutter open. Step by step, I navigate across the river's current, crossing to the bank of its far shore. The night air caresses my skin to instantly dry and drink the water travels deep into my pores. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Before me billows the largest willow tree I have ever seen. Its waterfalls of long sweeping arms harmoniously sways with a gentle breeze and a quiet dance of shimmering leaves. I now see the piercing white light of the firefly spiraling in and out of view. Its orb bobs and weaves far beyond the curtain of weeping branches. Come inside, I hear a soft, sweet voice beckoning from far within the tree. The voice echoes throughout my heart with an unquestionable familiarity. I suddenly feel quite young, as though the years of my life have miraculously reversed. I look down to witness that I am now standing in my body as it looked when I was 7 years old. Nothing feels unusual about this instant transformation. My young body feels perfectly suited to this new present moment. I feel the lightness of my little feet and the boldness of my curiosity rambunctiously romp me forward to explore the great willow tree. Weaving through the long golden arms and shining green leaves, I hug tiny handfuls of willow branches, carving out a labyrinth of paths along the thick tree. Keep looking. I hear the voice playfully encourage my curiosity. This voice is the kindest sound I have ever heard, and my intuition hones upon it. It is a game of hide and seek. Swinging through the last layer of burrows, I find my way to the open moss of the great willow tree's canopied center. It is mostly dark within the curtained circumference of the inner tree, with occasional slants of moonlight peeking through from above. I peer into the shadowy sanctuary, adjusting my eyes to take in the vast trunk of the great willow tree. As though announcing my arrival, a choir of cicadas spontaneously lift up their unified voices into the night. My little body begins to buzz in harmony. From behind the trunk spirals out my friendly firefly, whose tiny orbs of light now refocus my perception. Its piercing white light begins to quickly expand far beyond its size. I feel my heart leap up in a childlike wonder and anticipation. I found her. Ray after ray of new white light emerges from the center of the growing orb and reaches far into the shadows. I hear my name repeated softly between the quiet rounds of the mantra being chanted. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. The innumerable rays of white light now draw into a centralized column, organizing their particles to reveal the rapidly forming outline of a woman sitting upon a white lotus throne. My eyes struggle to adjust to this brilliance gathering into form of her soft body and radiant face. Her pure white robes are alive, illuminated as a full moon above. Finally, my vision adjusts to the piercing white light of her smiling face and welcoming open arms. I am absolutely elated to see her smile and run without hesitation into her waiting arms. She holds my little baby like a baby bird, folding my wings into her tender embrace. I close my eyes and all I see is the white light of her pure essence, filling my awareness. My heart bursts with confidence to be held in this invincible arms of her divine love, and my innocence delights in her holy reflection of my worthiness. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. She quietly calls my name, and my eyes open to peer into the light of her own. Tendrils of her hair move as raven feathers loose upon the unseen wind. Her arms maintain a secure embrace around me, but she now adjusts my seat upon her lap to allow for a natural flow of conversation to unfold. I am so glad you found me, she gently offers. Do you remember who I am? Yes, I broadly smile back. You are Quan Yin. My heart burst with happiness to proudly speak her name once again. It felt as though a distant age had passed since I was allowed to say her name. Yes, I am. Her dark eyes peer back at me, filled with such an all-consuming love it surpasses my understanding, even for a confident 7-year-old heart. Her eyes flicker in a momentary consideration and then resume her steady gaze. She draws closer into my eyes. I would like to share a story with you tonight. Like a bedtime story? I gleefully ask. No, it's actually a story to awaken your soul. It's not the kind of story intended to put you asleep. I paused to consider her unusual offer and asked, will the story have a happy ending? Yes, my dear, it has the happiest ending of any story ever shared. But you will need to be brave in the beginning, middle, and parts of the end. Why? I curiously demand. Because this story has events in it that you will not want to see or hear. Then why would I want to hear your story, Quan Yin? Why? So that you may be free from fear forever and know that only love is real. Oh, I considered the idea carefully, weighing her response on the scales of my heart. Her reasoning felt distantly familiar. I shifted into another glorious, peaceful position, perched in her arms of pure love. Well, what's the story about? I queried. Quan Yin's mouth upturned into a promising smile as she replied, it's about a young girl who overcame great pain to grow up and become a beautiful woman whose love healed the whole world. I calculate the variables of pain and love to see if they are leveraging my resistance to hearing Quan Yin's story. The scales were tipping, but I was still not convinced. Raising an amused eyebrow, Quan Yin counters offers, and in the story there's a mighty dragon that becomes the girl's best friend. This all-powerful dragon teaches the girl how to devour pain and magically transform into love. I stared back at her in silent awe. Quan Yin had made an offer that I could not refuse. I decided then and there that I must learn everything about this magical dragon. Okay, will you hold my hand when I feel afraid during the story? Of course. I will be holding all of you wherever you may need my help to feel brave. Okay. Suddenly, my young body is overcome by a tidal wave of tiredness. I wildly yawn, attempting to hold my eyes open as I happily agree to bravely hear my story. My head unwillingly rolls onto her shoulder, and I promptly pass out into a deep state of sleep. Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum. My consciousness steps out from the form of a young sleeping body to now stand in the form of an adult body, witnessing Quan Yin holding my inner child. I take a moment to orient myself through the senses of my adult self to the willow tree, the distant sound of the river, and Quan Yin sitting before me. I stare curiously at my 7-year-old body fast asleep in her arms. My eyes suddenly feel overcome by the heaviness as I witness deep wounds, dark bruises, and infested cuts slowly begin to peer across the landscape of my inner child's little body. I look at Quan Yin in horror, my eyes searching hers for an understanding of what I am witnessing unfold before me. Quan Yin speaks. There are those long-forgotten hidden wounds that continue to unconsciously control your awareness with frightful thinking. Memories both known and unknown to you are surfacing as a map of your past across the body of your inner child to now be healed by the witnessing power of your higher self. I peer closer at the wounds. They seem to be written as stories compressed into a little body of my inner child. Emotionally stirred, I asked, why would anyone hurt an innocent child? Quan Yin replies, they did not know how to stop what they did. The suffering it takes to wound a child in such a way as this, or in any way at all, is suffering beyond logic. As a wild animal bent over in a maddening pain strikes without thought, so too the human awareness possessed by suffering cannot stop itself from hurting others. Suffering exists such as acts of pain upon others without reason. For suffering is the true definition of insanity. I began to calculate how many times I had suffered in the past and unconsciously acted out from that suffering. I considered now how universal this suffering is within humanity, especially how great one must be suffering to actually hurt the little body before me. Moved by the illumination of compassion, I curiously asked, how can my higher self heal my little body? Quan Yin smiles at me and offers, first, you must choose to recognize the absolute innocence of your inner child. These wombs are artifacts from the insanity of suffering. These wombs have absolutely nothing to do with the purity and worthiness of this child's heart. At this young age, there was nothing this little one could have done to stop what happened to them by the words and deeds of others. Can you forgive yourself for choosing to be so young in this little body? Can you forgive yourself for becoming temporarily vulnerable to the insanity of others' suffering? I look at the young body resting in Quan Yin's arms and realize that I must be willing to forgive myself so that these wounds will lift and heal. I decide that I love my inner child too much to resist this self-compassion and self-forgiveness any longer. My inner child deserves to never suffer again and to only know my unconditional love and acceptance. I now choose to use my sovereign creative power to free every wound from the past that I see compressed into my little body. On behalf of my inner child, I call upon my higher self and now command. I accept that I hold the golden keys of my heaven on earth. I accept that I create my reality by the power of my word. My word is good. My heart is pure. By the loving power of my pure word, I call forth and declare blessings of unconditional compassion for myself now. By the power of my I am presence, I now forgive myself for every experience of suffering in my past. By the power of my I am presence, I now forgive myself for my unresolved, painful memory. By the power of my I am presence, I now forgive myself for every moment of life lost in the amnesia of my unconscious wounds. By the power of my I am presence, I now forgive myself for every addiction to unconsciously perpetrate further suffering. By the power of my I am presence, I now forgive myself for every experience of others as a threat to my innocence. By the power of my I am presence, I now forgive myself for withholding from unconditionally forgiving myself. By the power of my I am presence, I now summon and receive the unconditional compassion that I deserve to give myself. By the power of my I am presence, I now summon and receive the unconditional divine love that I deserve to give myself. By the power of my I am presence, I now summon the cleansing waters of my Holy Spirit to baptize me from the suffering of my past. By the power of my I am presence, I now summon my higher self to atone for every wound. By the power of my I am presence, I now summon 1,000 hands and eyes of Sophia to bless my body, heart, and mind for my innocence to be experienced anew. By the power of my I am presence, I now command these wounds, seen and unseen, conscious and unconscious, to now be dissolved by the holy water and light of my invincible innocence. By the power of my I am presence, I now summon and welcome my higher self to operate my awareness with radiant self-compassion every day. I declare that my self-compassion creates a new relationship with life that is filled with blessings of happiness, love, joy, peace, and prosperity that I deserve. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Quan Yin smiles into my eyes with soft fierceness, silently celebrating the pure power of our communion. My young body stirs in Quan Yin's embrace. She lifts a slim jade water vessel above my head of my inner child. Quan Yin tips the vessel forward to reveal to me that it is empty. Yet I watch as aquamarine light water is gently sprinkled over my inner child. Emerging from Quan Yin's heart is a ray of piercing white light that connects my heart chakra to hers. This light now extends far out from our hearts, joining us in a large column of light that surrounds both of our bodies. Quan Yin and I have created the unified field of karuna compassion for my inner child. I cannot perceive where Quan Yin ends, and I begin. I am now one with Quan Yin's loving compassion for my young body in her arms. Om Mani Padme Hum. A light of karuna compassion now flows up our spines and throughout our own crown chakras, piling high in gathering waves of light above us. Karuna compassion now descends in rapturous waves of healing energy, filling my young body with medicine. The karuna compassion travels as the light water of understanding and acknowledgement into every physical and emotional wound of my inner child, honoring a lifetime of surviving the suffering of others. I keep my eyes fixed upon Quan Yin's peaceful gaze to remain focused in our unified field of karuna compassion. I allow the Holy Spirit of my higher self to do this great work through me and for me. And I let go and remain fully present as the witness and vehicle for this healing empowerment as I silently repeat Quan Yin's mantra. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Quan Yin tips her vase of compassion forward and crystallized waters are sprinkled over my inner child again as she speaks her prayers of purification. Every molecule of this water carries Quan Yin's piercing white light into the subtle bodies of my inner child. The perfect water fills every unresolved feeling with soothing relief, every emotional bruise with the medicine of unconditional love, and every agony with the peace that passeth understanding. I watch as the skin of my inner child now heals back into perfect form. My young body deeply drinks in this medicine of light water. Every drop of karuna compassion is accounted for and perfectly dissolves into this little body. My inner child stirs, rolling over Quan Yin's lap, stretching long and yawning into a newly awakened breath. In appreciation, my young form stands up and throws both arms around Quan Yin's neck in a delightful embrace. My inner child's clothing now mirrors the same white light of Quan Yin's lumosity. My young self now turns to face me as my adult self. I am still channeling the light of karuna compassion through my crown chakra to my inner child's heart. Stepping forward from Quan Yin's lap, my inner child levitates in the air before me. Be at peace. The child whispers and smiles. I am well. I relax, and the fountain of the white light at my crown chakra gently slows down to integrate within my adult body. My luminous inner child walks upon the quantum particles of air between us, levitating at eye level, now only a foot away from me. My 7-year-old self confidently smiles at me, and all I can see is a master of light. Reaching out a tiny hand, my inner child blesses my third eye with the mudra of Sophia Christ, and then we rest our foreheads against one another, chanting an ancient blessing over my past and future. The little master before me atones all my previous and possible creations of suffering. As the rising phoenix, I recognize my luminous inner child as the anointed master who is capable of setting me free to accept the joy of being me. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. The phoenix child speaks. In your inner choice to resurrect me with unconditional love, a new pathway for self-compassion was created within your consciousness. Traveling along this neurological pathway, your unconditional love leads directly to a crystalline chromosome that carries Keycode 6 within you. How many times have you extended the waters of karuna compassion to others and forsaken yourself the same miracle? The medicine of unconditional love that you healed my body with is also meant for you. You deserve to receive the blessed power of your own karuna compassion every day. In this moment, I ordain your adult awareness to the ministry of self-love. I declare that from this day forward, a waterfall of self-compassion will forever flow from your heart to your awareness. I consecrate the space and light within you to be filled with a recognition of your innocence. As the pure innocence of your divinity, I am always with you, inside every present moment, baptizing your awareness with your own conscious communion of self-love. I am both the ancient child that knows the secret prayer of your heart and the guardian angel that ensures you receive the answers of these prayers. It is safe to open your heart and be guided by me. Everything you need for loving yourself is within you as me. It is time to accept your divine inheritance to be happy. By the power of your unconditional divine love and karuna compassion, I am resurrected as the phoenix child, arising from the holy flames of your sacred heart. It is by the power of your shared Holy Spirit And I now activate Keycode 6 within your DNA. My Phoenix child places both hands on my cheeks and draws our foreheads together again. For a moment, we lightly rest against each other in the third eye communion. Drawing back, my inner child flashes a smile at me, surrounded by a great momentum of energy. With arms reaching up towards the sky, my Phoenix child levitates directly over me with the tiny feet pointing together as an arrow aimed at my crown chakra. Sweeping winds spiral around my inner child's body, which now begin to gently rotate above me. My Phoenix child sings the songs of Sophia, calling forth a blessing to heal and activate my adult body. The curtains of the great willow tree part, and I see Quan Yin rise from her throne, speaking blessings over me in the tongues of angels. The willow leaves turn into 1,000 unshedded tears of my past and run into a great river behind me. I witness years of my grief wash away in the current as the tree completely dissolves behind Quan Yin. Compressed stories of suffering release out of every cell of my body, flowing into the river as directed by my Phoenix child, chanting above my head with delight. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Quan Yin steps forward from her white lotus throne to meet me by the river's edge. She holds my hands and invites me to mindfully breathe with her. Together we ground my energy with the earth as my Phoenix child continues the karuna healing from me from above. In the stillness of Quan Yin's gaze, I become deeply still within. She directs me to look at the full moon and asks me to keep my eyes steady upon it. From behind the moon, the form of a pearlescent white dragon launches across the sky, moving in the rhythm to the Phoenix child's chanting for my life. The dragon's radiant body descends in a long spiral from the sky and lands along the river's edge upon the golden claws. Tucking in her mighty serpent wings, the Sophia Dragon gazes upon me with eyes glittering from a distance. Maintaining eye contact, she dips her head to quietly sip from the river as I integrate her mighty arrival. In the presence of the Sophia Dragon, I feel my body let go to all resistance to receiving. I turn my head to the abandoned places within me and direct the waves of karuna compassion rolling through me to now fill these places with unconditional love. The Sophia Dragon now takes flight to spiral around my Phoenix child and myself as a DNA helix that connects to the full moon with my crown chakra. The luminous body of my Phoenix child accelerates to spin faster than the speed of light and dissolves into 1,000 drops of water. I receive the baptism of my Phoenix child, pouring as waves of my pure essence directly into my crown chakra. I feel instantly nourished and my entire spine aligns as a central channel of piercing white light. The Sophia Dragon opens her jaws, blowing stardust and lightning through my crown chakra. Her breath of life anoints every cell of my body with an awakened recognition of my own Holy Spirit. The Sophia code within me lights up as a crystalline chromosome for Keycode 6. It is now activated by the Phoenix child's joyful laughter ringing across the great halls of my DNA. Quan Yin now places her hand upon my heart. Pink and aquamarine healing energy flow through her heart to deeply relax my body and integrate Keycode 6 of the Sophia code within me. Quan Yin quietly sings Om Mani Padme Hum. Her voice gently soothes me to easily and gracefully integrate this initiation now. I accept that I hold the golden keys to my heaven on earth. I accept that I create my reality by the power of my word. My word is good, my heart is pure. By the loving power of my pure word, I declare that I am worthy and willing to receive the unconditional karuna compassion of my higher self now and forevermore. By the power of my I am presence, that is commanded that this activation of Keycode 6 of the Sophia code within my DNA is now accomplished. By the power of my I am presence, it is commanded that my awareness be filled with my own divine love and compassion in every present moment. I now integrate this initiation throughout my entire body on all 4 levels of my being with grace and ease. It is done, it is done, it is done. By the power of the perfect Trinity, it is done. The Sophia Dragon blows another breath of life over my body. The stardust moves and spirals around me and roots me deeply into the earth beneath my feet. My crown chakra opens as a 1,000-petaled lotus flower. The tip of each petal is bejeweled with an open eye flashing with tiny lightning bolts. My awareness expands in the omniscient vision of my higher self. I simultaneously see in every direction while remaining focused upon the face of my Phoenix child smiling at me from within my heart. With wide open arms, my Phoenix child embraces me from within. Quan Yin speaks a ceremonial blessing over me and now seals this empowerment in the light environment of my own Holy Spirit, as directed by my higher self. I thank Quan Yin for facilitating the space of initiation and quantum healing. I now wholeheartedly welcome her loving presence as an essential divine feminine ascended master into my life. I watch as the entire night scene dissolves and integrates as the strength of karuna compassion within me. I now close the ceremony with reverence for my true self and the divine love of all that is, supporting my eternal success. And so it is.